Hey guys, per usual, everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. So let's take a look at some charts, and unless you've been under a rock these past few months, you've come to realize that alts are driving this thing for the most part, especially Ethereum, especially Tezos. So it's no surprise that alt dominance has increased and BTC dominance has decreased. Now, do I think this metric is beyond silly and meaningless? Yes, but I look at it because other people look at it. So here we are looking at it together, and you can see it had a death cross. Will that mean anything? Or we'll find out. It's really hard to say. You know, the thing about ICOs is we kept getting phantom dilution in the market cap for ICOs. So it was increasing market cap, but it was all just nonsense, right? So this time, there aren't a billion ICOs pushing this dominance down. This is all just actual retail / institutional buying of alts. So that's why it's a slightly different beast, even different than the April, March stuff. You know, in April and May 2019, BTC far and away outperformed everything. And that isn't happening currently. That doesn't mean it won't happen down the line. You know, alts may be done here, and BTC might take over. I don't think that's going to happen. I think BTC is going to recover a little bit. Alts will probably still do pretty well in the coming year. So looking at semi futures contracts, again, seemingly boring. I talk about it all the time. I talk about it every video. But what really matters here is two things. Are we close to an expiration? Not really. February 28th, pretty far away. Why does that matter? Because if we're close to an expiration, volatility tends to get picked up bigly. Second, what does the biannual trend look like? Is it straight up or straight down? Right now it's straight up. So odds are pretty good that up until this June 26th, this isn't going to make a lower low than in the open. I know, brave of me to say that, but this is up, what, 25 to 30%, something like that. CME options have brought more volatility, more up movement, more bullishness. Arguably, correlation isn't causation, but that's what's happened. And more institutional products, the better. So I'm all for it. Even though it's cash settled and not underlying in BTC, I don't even care. As long as people can be exposed, awesome. Looking at futures premiums, again, this is quarterly versus spot, quarterly versus spot. This is BTC on the left, ETH on the right. And you can see that I don't have percentages on here, so it's hard to actually compare these two, but from the previous period in June, July 2019, neither BTC nor ETH reached that premium level. Even though ETH had this insane run, premiums didn't actually get that high relatively. So I'm looking for now why this matters. You know, when premiums are busted out like this, that should give anybody caution that the market's a bit too bullish and probably needs a little breathing room here. You know, weekly got the highest. The weekly is the yellow one here. Weekly got higher than nearly a year. Okay, 10 months. 10-month high, we'll say. So clearly there's something going on there. Same thing with ETH. You know, maybe this just continues to turn up. You can't really say from just looking at this, but in the moment, in a vacuum, when I'm looking at premiums and I say, okay, premiums really high here, probably need to chill a little bit. On top of all the other stuff that I was talking about, rising wedge, RSIs being blown out, bearish divergence on a few things. You know, those should all collectively give you some pause. Notional longs at all-time high on Bitfinex, BTC longs at all-time high on Bitfinex, that sort of thing. Looking at, this is just showing Coinbase price versus Bitfinex price. Green means Coinbase is leading, and if Coinbase is leading, it's either retail USD or USDC, which is good. It breaks down the Tether narrative that Tether's the most important thing in this market, that Tether's manipulating, that Bitfinex is manipulating, whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, if another exchange other than Bitfinex that doesn't offer USDT is leading, I have a hard time following that, you know, Tether truther narrative. The other thing is we've just generally been uber bullish when Coinbase is leading. So if I see that again, you know, it's hard to be bearish, right? But you're looking at the holistic approach, not just one thing when you're making your trading decisions, hopefully. Looking at USDT, has it been above $1 or not is this yellow highlight. Yellow highlight is it's not been below $1. So basically at the top, USDT got above $1, which may signal as we reach these highs, people are going into Tether. They're taking profit, essentially, taking the safe haven route, and that's perking up demand for Tether. That's one way to read it. You could say that the opposite is true for the bullish periods. If we're bullish, more people are selling Tether and buying crypto. That would make the most sense. Historically, that hasn't made sense over here if we were to apply that same narrative. Periods above $1 have been bearish for Tether. Periods below $1 have been bearish for Tether, whereas periods above have been more bullish. As soon as we dip below $1 these few times, price immediately reversed. It's pretty clear here. I think this is the best example in here. As soon as we dip below $1, we just dived hard. But the supply demand thing lines up here. If more people are selling Tether, price is going up, alts are mooning, that sort of thing. I think Tether in general affects alts way more than BTC does. Looking at the OG pitchfork, your favorite and mine, you can see we haven't come close to this rate of change historically. It's at 15K, which is essentially a new local high from 2019 even. I have full faith that as long as we don't break through this yearly pivot on the way down, we will hit this median line this year, whether we go into sideways into halving or not. I think that's pretty high probability that we're going to return to that level at some point this year. Again, this doesn't help me click the buy or sell button right now, but it helps give me a map, a roadmap, a projection, some actions to take should we reach this median line or mid-level. Since 2017, arguably, we haven't really stayed in this zone a lot. We did throughout mid-2019, but it'll be good to get back up in here and just chill for a bit, because that's what the trend would prefer. It doesn't like being down here, it doesn't like being up here, and it certainly didn't like being up here. Looking at this rising wedge and Cloud and 200 and VPVR, this is just the volume at the specific price. So the first thing that immediately popped out to me over the past few weeks was this rising wedge for BTC specifically, not so much for ETH. ETH was just exponential bull run, bullmentum, Vitalium, the power of Vitalium. All right, just a rising wedge. so it broke down eventually, and it's breaking the Tenkin, and that's the first sign of we're probably headed to the Kijun eventually. Now these might continue to pull up just because there was such fervent price history up here. So what we'll see is either Tenkin or Kijun both go flat, both slightly pull up. But as long as price remains below that blue line here, it's going to want to return to the Kijun, which is all the way down somewhere around 8.8 at this point, 8.7, 8.8, 8.9, depending on the exchange you're looking at. You can see we have a lot of volume congestion to get there. This just says there was a lot of buyers and sellers at that level. And that makes sense because we had a massive consolidation period previously. It also makes sense we didn't just bust through this without further consolidation because of all the previous consolidation in that zone. So, consolidation becomes resistance basically. The other thing I'm looking at here is VPVR shows a nice volume spike around this level. So the next level down to watch would be this 9.3, 9.4 zone, and then 8.8, 8.8, something like that. And the 200 is always a good spot to watch as well. Last BTC chart, if we look at the notional and BTC long, however you want to say it, this was an all-time high for both notional and BTC longs. Another reason to take pause is if you're considering going long up there. The alligator fractal system currently has a stop loss at 9,200, which would be a candle close below this level. Another stop for this system is breaking this midline of the alligator. So you can see we're approaching that. And you're definitely stopped out if the alligator flips bearish like it did over here. Otherwise, if it breaks highs, if it breaks this fractal that says go long, but as it sits now, there's not a long confidence here on this chart. The other thing was this sort of aimlessly wandering RSI that we had, versus ETH. You can see it looks completely different. I'll show that on the next couple charts, but BTC did have this slight bear divergence here, and sometimes that's all it takes especially when it's at the top of a rising wedge. So again, my expectation is this goes to 8888 or something thereabouts, and we should have continuation from there. We could just make this giant sideways ranging mess until halving. I don't think we'll see 15K before halving. All right, ETH. Now ETH has just been insane. Just straight parabolic nonsense. Exponential, parabolic, logarithmic, whatever you want to call it. It's been insane. And the pullback targets for that, based on the same metrics, are between 180 and 205. And you can see just how far away it is from the Tenkin, and that historically just doesn't happen. It's definitely above the Kijun, so the TK lines are going to go flat again here. The Tenkin might move up a little bit, but overall you're going to get the same C-clamping effect, and price is going to want to come down to those averages down around 205. The 200's way even below the Kijun, so there's plenty of reason to think this is just going to chill out for a bit. ETH just had its golden cross, BTC's had its golden cross for a little while. And then just to illustrate this RSI, it hit levels historically that have only ever happened a couple times. And for me, I was asking myself, did anything change here fundamentally for ETH? Is there a reason behind this? And I think the answer to that was a strong no, especially looking at on-chain statistics. Now we can point to the DeFi narrative and stuff being locked up and leveraged, allowing people to push this up further and further and further. I think that's probably the best narrative. If you need one, you don't necessarily need one, but it's there. Now, if we look at ETH's fresh pitchfork since 2019, it actually hit the median line already, arguably. It's not perfect, but it came pretty close. And now it's back on this level here. And I just added these arbitrarily. They're not like specific anything. This is 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1 if you're playing the pitchfork home game. But we may just chill in here, this median line indefinitely for ETH. Those averages can keep coming up, and if price doesn't want to come back down, I don't think that's the case. I do think price is going to come back down to reality around 200. Another chart we're watching on the weekly is this ETH TK cross bullish and then this 750 blast off target. I think that'll happen within the next 2 years. Super bold, visionary of me. This will take time. It's going to take a lot of time for this to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen until Q4 this year at the earliest, but it's certainly setting up to happen regardless. This 300 to 350 level is going to be a bear to get through, unless it just, surprises me and pushes through that on no volume or something. I don't know. Like this DeFi stuff reminds me of proof of stake, reminds me of master nodes, it reminds me of all the other narratives that have ever existed for crypto. It's just one more thing that's the same recycled lockup supply narrative. Like we take demand, lock it up, take supply, lock it up, and then we just let people leverage over and over again. So we may see that Q4 this year. I don't think it'll happen earlier than that. I really don't. One thing I wanted to talk about on the low time frame ETH is just Cloud 101 stuff. Whenever you see this recross of the TK with price above cloud, extremely bullish. Whenever you see price dip into the cloud and then you get your Kumo breakout again with your recross, extremely bullish. And especially if that's matched with the W pattern, extremely bullish. Now you have to be watching for this on lower time frames, become more valid when price is really moving, when volatility is high. When price is sideways for 2 weeks, looking at the hourly and 4 hour isn't as valuable in my mind as looking at these time frames when price is moving. So currently we're setting up again for this potential for a bullish Kumo breakout, bullish TK cross, that sort of thing. It's going to be a little messier on low time frames just because of all the stuff that's happened above it at this point. But it's definitely something to watch for. There's nothing stopping this train if the DeFi stuff keeps ramping up. And just to look at the BTC side of that, there weren't as many recrosses that were sort of clean, but you definitely got your Kumo breakout, push, reset, Kumo breakout, push, reset, Kumo breakout, push, and now it's reset again. So again, you're looking for that bullish Kumo breakout if you're going long. This bearish Kumo breakout does look like it had some legs, obviously. Looking at ETH BTC, it's getting its golden cross today, yesterday, tomorrow, something like that. It had this Adam Eve at the bottom, and now it's hitting all this volume congestion. It's, again, previous consolidation becomes resistance on the way up, as seen through VPVR. It's really hard to imagine we break 0.035 anytime soon. This probably needs to reconsolidate and chill for a little bit. You know, if we look at EOS BTC, for example, it's come back down to earth to its 200. So far, all of these were 6-month consolidation, at least, with the mean reversion, with now the trend is just starting for the bull side. And Cardano looks just like this, and Zeke looks just like this. They all look very similar as far as where they're at in the trend. So I do think BTC is going to need to pull back a little bit. And I do think alts are going to continue to actually probably be pretty strong through Q2, Q3. Definitely Q2 historically. That's when everything's been the strongest. All right, that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter.